Emma, don't stand there like that, my mother snapped, brushing past me in her wool airport coat. You're making the kids nervous. I was still in the kitchen doorway with my suitcase in one hand and my overnight bag digging into my shoulder. In the living room, my sister's 3 children were scattered across the couch like they had been dropped there in a hurry. Lily sat perfectly still. Noah was crying into his sleeve. 4-year-old Sophie coughed so hard her whole body folded forward. My father came down the hall dragging 2 black suitcases. Dad, I said, staring at the luggage, what is going on? He didn't stop. Your mother explained. No, she didn't. She said the kids need watching for a little while. They do. For how long? My mother finally looked at me. Emma, it's Christmas. Try not to be difficult for once. Then I saw the boarding passes in my father's hand. Paris. I stepped in front of the back door, my suitcase still beside my legs. Where is Melissa? My mother's mouth tightened. You are not helping by interrogating everyone. Melissa's kids are here, she's not. You're packed for an international flight. I think I get to ask one question. My father lowered his voice, the way he always did when he wanted me to feel small without the neighbors hearing. Don't make this ugly in front of the children. That was when Noah lifted his head and asked, Is Mommy coming too? No one answered him. My parents had called me 2 weeks earlier and begged me to come home for Christmas. Mom said the house felt empty. Dad said he wanted one quiet holiday with both his daughters if Melissa could make it. I had used my only 8 vacation days from the hospital, turned down extra pay, packed gifts, and driven 3 hours through sleet because they said Christmas wouldn't feel right without me. Now my mother was handing me a grocery list. Sophie has a cough, I said. Where's her medicine? Denise waved her hand. It's probably in one of the bags. Probably. My father put a credit card on the counter like he was paying a hotel deposit. Groceries are already ordered. The Wi-Fi password is the same. Lily knows bedtime. Lily, 10 years old and too quiet, stared at the floor. I looked at my parents. You invited me here to babysit. My mother laughed once, sharp and cold. Don't be dramatic, you're good with children. I came here for Christmas. And now you have one, Dad said, with family. The rideshare horn honked outside. I moved fully in front of the door. No, you're not leaving me with 3 kids and no explanation. My mother leaned close enough that I could smell her perfume. Emma, you're single. You have no husband, no children, and nothing important waiting for you. For once, be useful. Then she kissed Sophie on the forehead, walked past me and opened the door. My father followed with the luggage. I watched from the window as the driver loaded their bags. They were laughing, while Noah cried behind me and Sophie coughed into her blanket. The car pulled away from the curb. I stood there, gripping the curtain, until Lily appeared beside me. She didn't look at the road. She looked at the dark hallway behind us and whispered, Grandma Evelyn doesn't know we're here, does she? I turned toward Lily. What do you mean, Grandma Evelyn does know? Her eyes went straight to the floor. Lily. She pressed her lips together and shook her head. I'm not supposed to talk about it. Not supposed to talk about what? But she had already backed away from me, small shoulders stiff, like she expected an adult to punish her for accidentally breathing too loudly. That first night the house didn't feel like Christmas. It felt like cleanup after something bad had happened. Sophie's cough got worse after dinner. I searched every bathroom cabinet, every suitcase, every pocket of the diaper-sized backpack my mother had left by the stairs, and found nothing but one half-empty bottle of children's vitamins. No medicine, I muttered. Lily stood in the doorway. Grandma Denise said not to make a fuss. Grandma Denise isn't here. Lily didn't answer. Noah refused to sleep unless the hallway light stayed on. Every time I tried to turn away, he sat up in bed. Aunt Emma. Yeah, buddy. You're not leaving too, right? The word too landed harder than it should have. I sat on the edge of the bed and tucked the blanket around him. No, I'm not leaving. He watched my face like he was checking whether adults could still tell the truth. Downstairs, after all 3 kids were finally quiet, I looked for cough syrup again. Behind a stack of Christmas cards on the kitchen counter, I found a beige folder wedged against the wall. It wasn't labelled. Inside were school forms, emergency contact sheets, and a temporary care agreement with my parents, names printed under guardians. Richard Lawson. Denise Lawson. Not mine. Then I found a note clipped to the back. Follow-up visit requested after Christmas. Children to remain in approved temporary placement pending review. I read it twice. Melissa's signature wasn't anywhere. My hands went cold. I called my mother, no answer. I called my father. He didn't pick up, but a text came back 10 seconds later. Stop being dramatic, handle it. I stared at those 4 words until the screen dimmed. Then I called Melissa, straight to voicemail. Her last social media post was from 3 weeks ago, a blurry motel mirror selfie with no caption, no Christmas photos, no kids, no answers. On Christmas morning, Sophie woke up coughing against my shoulder while Noah asked if Santa knew which house they were at. Lily sat at the breakfast table, peeling the paper off a candy cane without eating it. My phone buzzed. The family group chat was filling with photos. My mother in front of a gold hotel mirror. My father holding a glass of champagne. The Eiffel Tower glowing behind them. Then Mom wrote, finally enjoying a peaceful Christmas. I typed, "Are you kidding me?" Then I looked up. Lily was watching me over the rim of her mug, waiting to see what I would do. I erased the message. Before I could set the phone down, a private message appeared from a number I didn't recognize. This is Mark Bennett from Child Protective Services. I need to confirm the children are still with Richard and Denise Lawson. My phone rang again in the grocery store parking lot, while Sophie was balanced on my hip, burning warm through her little sweater. The name wasn't saved, but I knew the number now. Mark Bennett. I stared at it until Lily grabbed my sleeve. Don't answer, she whispered. Noah stood beside the cart, holding a box of crackers against his chest. Is it Grandpa? No, Lily said too fast. I stepped away from the sliding doors and lowered my voice. Lily, why are you scared? Her eyes filled immediately, because Grandpa said if we say the wrong thing, Mom loses us forever. I stopped breathing for a second. What wrong thing? She shook her head hard. That we're here, that he and Grandma aren't, that Aunt Emma didn't know. The phone stopped ringing. Sophie coughed against my neck. That was when a cheerful voice called across the parking lot. Emma Lawson, is that you? Mrs. Hanley from my mother's church hurried over with 2 shopping bags and a smile that vanished slightly when she saw all 3 kids with me. Well, look at you, she said. Denise told everyone you begged to spend Christmas playing mommy. My face went hot. She said that. Oh, honey, she said you insisted, said you needed purpose this year. Mrs. Hanley leaned closer, lowering her voice like we were sharing gossip. And good for them, honestly. Your parents deserve that Paris trip. Those hotel photos are gorgeous. Lily's grip tightened on my coat. Mrs. Hanley kept talking. Though I was surprised Evelyn didn't come to the luncheon. Denise said the children were safely with Richard and her at the cabin, so Evelyn shouldn't worry. The words clicked into place so loudly, I almost didn't hear the traffic. The cabin. That was the story. My parents hadn't just dumped the kids on me. They had built a lie around me before I even arrived. I forced a smile that felt like glass. Mrs. Hanley, when did my mother tell you that? Yesterday morning. She said poor Emma was thrilled to help, and Evelyn was being dramatic asking questions again. Lily whispered, please don't tell. But the phone rang a 3rd time. This time I answered. Mark Bennett. Yes, am I speaking with Emma Lawson? Yes. Are the children with Richard and Denise Lawson? I looked at Sophie's flushed cheeks, Noah's frightened face, and Lily's hand clamped around my sleeve. No, I said, they're with me. There was a pause. Are Richard and Denise in the home? No. Where are they? I swallowed. They're not in the country. The line went quiet in a way that made my stomach drop. Then Mark's voice changed. Emma, are you legally authorized to care for these children? I looked down at the folder sticking out of my tote bag, the one with my parents, names on every line that mattered. No, I said, I don't think I am. I got the kids home as fast as I could. I was still taking Sophie's temperature when headlights swept across the front windows. A black town car stopped at the curb. The driver's door opened, and a man in a dark coat walked up the porch steps carrying an envelope stamped with one name. Evelyn Lawson. The knock came while Sophie was crying on the couch, her cheeks bright red, her breath catching between coughs. Lily grabbed my wrist before I reached the door. Don't open it. It's okay, I said, though nothing felt okay anymore. No, she whispered. Grandpa said if someone comes, we're at the cabin. I looked through the peephole. The man on the porch wasn't my father. He stood straight in the snow, holding the envelope against his coat, his expression calm in a way that made the whole house feel louder. I opened the door. Emma Lawson, he asked. Yes. My name is Daniel Price. I'm your grandmother Evelyn's attorney. Behind me, Lily made a small sound. Daniel looked past my shoulder, not nosy, just careful. He saw Sophie curled on the couch, Noah half hidden behind the banister, Lily stiff as stone beside me, and the children's bags still lined up near the hall. I was scheduled to meet Richard and Denise here this afternoon, he said. Your grandmother requested a holiday welfare visit connected to some estate matters. My parents aren't here. His eyes came back to mine. Where are they? I held the door wider. Europe is... Daniel didn't react loudly. He didn't have to. He stepped inside, removed his gloves, and began asking questions with the quiet precision of someone counting cracks in a wall. When did they leave? Christmas Eve. Did they leave written authorization for medical care? I found a folder, but it only names them. Do you have contact with the children's mother? No, Melissa won't answer. Sophie coughed again, a thin, ragged sound. Daniel looked toward her, then toward the children's coats by the stairs. May I call your grandmother from the driveway? I nodded. Through the front window, I watched him stand beside the town car with his phone to his ear. The children are here, I heard through the glass when he turned slightly. No, Richard and Denise are not. Yes, overseas. Within an hour, another car pulled up. Mark Bennett from Child Protective Services arrived with a tablet, a badge, and a face that gave nothing away. I felt Lily press against my side as he stepped into the living room. I need everyone to tell the truth, Mark said gently. No one is in trouble for being honest. Lily stared at the carpet. Then she lifted her chin. Grandpa said if anyone asked, we were at the cabin with him and Grandma Denise. Noah started crying. I wanted to protect them from every adult in that room, including the truth, but the folder was already in my hands. The school forms, the temporary agreement, the note about the follow-up visit, the Paris photos, my father's text. Stop being dramatic, handle it. I gave everything to Mark. Then Daniel placed a blank statement form on the coffee table. You don't have to guess, he said, just write exactly what happened. So I did. I wrote that I had been invited for Christmas. I wrote that my parents left within minutes of my arrival. I wrote that I had not been told about any custody arrangement. I wrote that they were in Paris while 3 children were in my care without legal authority. When I signed my name, my hand was shaking. Daniel read a message on his phone, then looked up. Your grandmother is on her way. Richard and Denise have been contacted. My phone rang before I could answer. Dad. I put it on speaker. His voice exploded through the room. What the hell did you do, Emma? Nobody moved. You destroyed this family, he snapped. Do you understand that? You had one job, one. Then Mom's voice broke in behind his, high and sobbing. You had no right to let your grandmother find out. Grandmother Evelyn arrived before sunset, not fragile, not confused, not the lonely old woman my mother always described when she wanted me to feel guilty for not calling enough. She walked into that house in a dark green coat, silver hair pinned back, one hand on her cane and the other wrapped around a leather folder. Her eyes moved from Sophie asleep under a blanket to Noah sitting beside Lily, to me standing near the fireplace with my phone still in my hand. Then she looked at Daniel. Tell me plainly. Didn't soften it. Richard and Denise left the children with Emma without legal authority, then travelled overseas. The children were supposed to remain in Richard and Denise's approved temporary care pending review. Emma was not informed. Evelyn's face didn't change, but her fingers tightened around the cane. Mark Bennett opened the folder on the coffee table. Melissa Lawson lost temporary custody after repeated neglect reports. The most recent incident involved Sophie being left alone for an extended period while Melissa was unreachable. Richard and Denise agreed to act as temporary guardians. I looked at the children. Lily was staring at her shoes. Noah whispered, "Are we in trouble?" Evelyn crossed the room slowly and lowered herself onto the chair across from him. "No, sweetheart," she said. "The adults are." That was the first time all day I felt my lungs open. Daniel continued. Richard requested a large trust withdrawal last week, marked as emergency family travel. Mrs. Lawson asked me to verify the purpose after Denise stopped answering direct questions. Evelyn's voice was quiet. "And I found first-class flights, a Paris hotel, not one receipt connected to these children." Stomach turned. It hadn't been a misunderstanding. It hadn't been bad timing. They had used me as a human hiding place. "They told everyone I volunteered," I said. Evelyn looked at me then, and the anger in her face softened just enough to hurt. "Of course they did. Your father has always been better at writing stories than telling the truth." Richard and Denise came back the next day. They didn't come in powerful. They came in wrinkled, pale and frantic, still wearing travel clothes, their luggage wheels clattering across the porch like a warning. Dad stepped into the living room and pointed at me first. "This is her fault. She misunderstood." Mom rushed in behind him, already crying. "We just needed a break. You don't know what it's been like." Evelyn sat in my father's chair. He stopped when he saw her there. "Mother," he said, voice dropping. "This got blown out of proportion." Mark stood from the couch. "Mr. Lawson, why did you leave 3 children in the care of someone with no legal authority, then state they were with you?" Dad's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Mom pressed a tissue to her face. "Emma was family." "We thought," Lily spoke before she could finish. "Grandpa said Aunt Emma always does what she's told." The room went silent so completely that I heard the old clock ticking above the mantel. My father looked at Lily like she had betrayed him. Evelyn saw it. "You dare," she said. Those 3 words cut through him harder than shouting. Daniel opened his leather folder. "Effective immediately, Richard and Denise Lawson are removed from administrative access to the family trust. Further withdrawals are frozen pending review. We'll begin transfer of the house into a protected arrangement so it cannot be borrowed against or leveraged without Mrs. Evelyn Lawson's approval." Dad's face drained. "You can't do that." "I can," Evelyn said. "I should have done it years ago." Turned toward her. "We're your family." Looked from Sophie's flushed face to Lily's clenched hands. "Are they?" Fallout didn't stay inside the house. Mrs. Hanley, embarrassed that she had repeated my mother's lie, told the church circle what Denise had really said and what had actually happened. My father resigned from the charity board before they could vote him out. My mother's sisters stopped calling me dramatic after they learned Sophie had been sick without proper medical authorization, while Denise posted champagne photos from Paris. Melissa entered a supervised recovery and parenting program. Visits with the children were set by the court. My parents were not allowed unsupervised authority over them while the case remained open. And me, I didn't magically become their mother overnight. That wasn't fair to them or to me. But with Evelyn's help, I took extended leave the right way, signed the proper paperwork, and helped keep the kids in a stable temporary placement close enough for school, counseling, and family visits. A week later, Evelyn gave me direct control over a separate education fund for Lily, Noah, and Sophie. My father exploded when he heard. Evelyn didn't blink. "Trust," she told him, "is not inherited by age or title." By New Year's Day, the house was quiet. The children were asleep upstairs. The Christmas tree lights glowed against the window. Mom's untouched holiday mugs sat on the counter, still wrapped in tissue paper because she had never planned to be there long enough to use them. I sat at the kitchen table across from Evelyn, both of us drinking tea. My suitcase was still by the wall, half packed, half forgotten. Evelyn looked at it, then at me. "What do you want now, Emma?" For once, I didn't search for the answer that would keep everyone comfortable. I looked toward the stairs, where the children were finally sleeping without fear, then back at the woman who had walked in and made the truth louder than my parents' lies. "I want to stop being useful to people who only love me when I obey." Reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. And for the first time, nobody argued.